Caught my manager hooking up with an intern. Now he's threatening my job if I speak out. I, 27F, have been working at my current company for 3 years, and up until last week I thought I'd seen it all when it comes to office drama. I'm a junior project manager in a mid-sized firm, and I generally like my job and colleagues. But now I'm in a situation I never imagined. I caught my boss, my married boss, hooking up with our new intern, 21F. And ever since, he's been threatening my job if I dare to speak out about it. I feel trapped and sick to my stomach, and I need to get this off my chest. To set the scene a bit, my manager John, 45M, has been at the company for over a decade. He's a charismatic guy, well-liked by the higher-ups, and honestly, up until now, I respected him. We aren't friends or anything, but we had a decent working relationship. The intern, Emily, 21F, just joined us a couple of months ago as part of her college program. She's young, bright, and eager to learn. Reminds me of myself when I started out. I've tried to mentor her a bit when I can, since I know how overwhelming the corporate world can be at first. Anyway, last week we had a huge project deadline. A few of us, including me, were staying late all week to get the work done. John was around late too, supposedly to support the team, though in hindsight, I'm not sure how much work he was actually doing. One night, I stayed later than most, finishing up some reports. It was around 9 p.m., and almost everyone had left the office, except a couple of people, including Emily, who was helping with some filing or something. I realized I left one of my notebooks in a conference room earlier that day, so I went back to grab it before heading out. The lights were dim. We have motion sensor lights that turn off when an area is empty, and the office was quiet. As I neared the conference room, I heard soft voices and what sounded like muffled giggles or kissing noises. I thought maybe someone left a rom-com playing on a laptop or something, because I couldn't imagine what it really was at first. But when I gently pushed the door open, I froze. There, on the conference table, was John with Emily. They were all over each other. John's shirt was partly unbuttoned, and Emily was perched on the edge of the table with her skirt hiked up. It was absolutely the last thing I expected to see. I think I made a noise of shock. I'm not sure it was such a blur, because they both suddenly looked up at me. We all just stared at each other for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a second or two. I panicked and mumbled something like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry," and I backed out of the room. I was in full-on flight mode, heart pounding, face burning. As I turned away, I heard John call after me, "Hey, wait," in this sharp tone, but there was no way in hell I was sticking around. I just hurried back to my desk, grabbed my bag, and literally ran out of the office. On the drive home, I was shaking. I had so many thoughts swirling in my head. Did that really just happen? How long has that been going on? That's got to violate about a dozen company policies. And John's married. I felt sick for a lot of reasons. Part of me was worried for Emily. Was she being taken advantage of? Maybe it was consensual, but the power imbalance is huge, and as her boss, John should know better. Another part of me was thinking about John's wife, who I've met briefly at a company holiday party. She seemed so nice, And of course, I was also freaking out about myself. I had just walked in on my boss doing something very against the rules. What was I supposed to do now? Pretend I saw nothing? When I got home that night, I called my best friend to rant and ask for advice. She was as shocked as I was. I remember pacing in my living room, practically yelling into the phone, "I caught them! I literally opened the door and bam, there they were! What the hell do I do?" My friend knows the workplace politics at my job are tricky, to put it mildly. John is tight with upper management. If I report this to HR, there's a very real fear it could backfire on me. Companies should protect whistleblowers doing the right thing. But in reality, people like John often survive these things unscathed, while the person who spoke up gets subtly pushed out or labeled a troublemaker. I've seen similar, though much less scandalous, situations before. My friend asked if maybe Emily might report it herself, or if she was okay, but I really don't know her well enough to guess how she's feeling. For all I know, she might genuinely like John and think this is a relationship. Or maybe he's coercing her subtly with promises about her career. I just didn't have enough info. And unfortunately, after what happened, it's not like I could just call her up and ask, "Hey, so how are things with you and our boss? You okay?" I hardly slept that night. I was terrified about what the next day at work would bring. My friend advised me to document everything and maybe even talk to a lawyer just in case, which honestly sounded extreme at first, but now I'm thinking it might not be a bad idea. At minimum, I wrote down a detailed account of what I saw, the date and time, etc., while it was fresh in my mind. The next morning, I arrived at work exhausted, queasy, and anxious as hell. I wasn't sure if I should seek John out to clear the air or lay low. I chose the latter. I got to my desk and just tried to immerse myself in the usual morning emails and tasks. hoping maybe John would be equally keen on pretending last night never happened. No such luck. About an hour into the day, I saw John walking toward my desk. My stomach dropped. He had this tight, thin-lipped smile and gestured for me to follow him. "Can we chat in my office?" he asked, voice polite but tone leaving no room for refusal. I felt like I was walking to the gallows as I followed him. My heart was in my throat. We stepped into his office, and he closed the door firmly behind us. He cut right to the chase. "So, about last night," he said quietly, his eyes fixed on me in a way that was anything but friendly. I immediately started babbling, saying things like, "I'm sorry I walked in. I didn't know anyone was in there. I was just grabbing my notebook." But he held up a hand to stop me. He wasn't interested in my apology or explanation, obviously. His voice was low and cold. "I need you to understand something," he began. My palms were sweating at this point. He basically told me that what I saw was a private matter between two consenting adults, and not something that concerned me. I think I replied with something shaky like, "John, you know this is against company policy, and you're married." I couldn't help but say it. I was scared, but also kind of outraged that he was acting like this was nothing. That comment made his jaw tighten. He stepped a little closer and lowered his voice even more. "Listen," he hissed, "I know what you think you saw, but if you know what's best for you, you'll keep your mouth shut about it." My heart was hammering. He went on, saying that if rumors started, or if anyone else found out, he would personally make sure that my position at the company would be, quote, untenable. That was the word he used, basically a fancy way of saying he'd ruin me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. On one hand, I half expected him to maybe try to smooth things over, like ask me to keep it secret, and maybe offer some kind of incentive. A raise? Promotion? I don't know. Not that it would make it okay, but this threatening route floored me. He was so blunt about it. He even said, "HR won't help you. Do you really think they'll take your word over mine, especially with no proof?" I just remember nodding numbly. I think I said something like, "I understand," because honestly I felt intimidated as hell. He then switched to this almost friendly tone, like trying to sugarcoat the threat, saying, "Let's just agree that last night never happened, okay? We can both move on and focus on work." He even patted me on the shoulder as he said that, which made my skin crawl. I left his office feeling shaky and nauseous. I went to the bathroom and just sat in a stall for a while, trying to calm down. I was so angry and scared and, yes, intimidated. Part of me was like, did he really just threaten me like that? And another part of me was like, oh God, he's right about HR. I mean, our HR has never been particularly trustworthy or powerful in the company. John is a senior manager who's brought in a lot of revenue. I'm just a relatively low-level employee. It's not crazy to think they'd protect him over me. Throughout that day, I avoided both John and Emily. I saw Emily at her desk a couple times, looking her usual cheerful self, though when she saw me, I could swear she looked nervous. We didn't speak. I wonder what John told her, or if he warned her too. She didn't come to me or anything, and I certainly didn't approach her. The whole atmosphere felt off, like I was tiptoeing around a landmine. By the end of the day, I felt completely on edge. Every time my email dinged or my phone rang, I jumped, half expecting it to be some fallout from this mess. I went home and just broke down, crying out of frustration and helplessness. I'm furious that John would abuse his power like this, both with the intern and by threatening me. I'm disgusted at what I saw, but I'm also really worried about my job and what will happen if I don't keep quiet. Over the next few days, John acted mostly normal towards me in front of others, but there were little things that felt like reminders of his threat. For example, in a team meeting, he made a point to heavily scrutinize a progress report I submitted, something he'd never do before. It felt performative, like he was subtly showing me who has the power. He'd say things like, "We need to make sure everyone's up to standard here, especially our project managers. We wouldn't want to lose a client over sloppy work," emphasizing especially our project managers, while looking directly at me. It was humiliating in a quiet way. None of my colleagues knew what was going on, so to them it probably just looked like he was being tough but fair. But I knew he was sending me a message. I recall a former colleague, let's call her Sarah, who butted heads with John last year over something relatively minor. She disagreed with him openly in a meeting about project strategy. Not long after, she was suddenly transferred to a dead-end role and eventually left the company. At the time, I thought maybe it was just a coincidence or that there were other factors, but now I wonder if John orchestrated that because she challenged him. Remembering that now sends another wave of anxiety through me. If he could push Sarah out, what will he do to me when he sees me as a direct threat to his entire career and marriage? One particularly awful moment came when I was grabbing coffee in the break room. John came in, and for the benefit of a couple other people who were there, he was all smiles and asked me loudly, "How's that big client proposal coming along? Everything on track?" I forced a smile and said yes, it was fine. Then he got closer, and in a low voice just for me, he murmured, "Good. Let's keep it that way. It sent a chill down my spine. Every time I see Emily now, I also feel a mix of anxiety and guilt. She rarely makes eye contact with me anymore. I wonder if John told her I saw them. He probably did. I wonder if she's afraid I'll report it, and that she'll get in trouble or lose her internship. Or maybe she's been warned by him too, or maybe she genuinely just wants to pretend it never happened either. I have no idea. The not knowing is hard. So here I am, a week later, sitting at my desk typing this out, on my personal laptop on lunch break for the record. I haven't told a soul at work about any of this. Outside of work, only my best friend knows. Every day I walk in, feeling like I'm carrying this huge, dirty secret. I'm constantly on edge. My performance is probably suffering because I'm so distracted and anxious, which is the cruel irony of it. He's threatening my job security, and by doing so, he's making it harder for me to even do my job. I'm stuck in this impossible situation. If I report him, there's a good chance he'll find a way to retaliate, and I'll be the one who ends up fired or blacklisted in my industry. Our field is a surprisingly small world, and he has connections. If I stay quiet, I have to live with the knowledge of what he's doing, and the fear that maybe he'll screw me over anyway if he thinks I'm a liability. Not to mention the moral weight of it. It's killing me that he's likely manipulating a 21-year-old intern who is just starting her career. And the fact that he's cheating on his wife, which, while not my business technically, feels gross to know about. I keep thinking about confronting Emily privately to ask if she's okay, or if she needs help. But if I do that, and she tells John, oh boy, would that make things even worse for me. Or she might not appreciate me prying into her personal life. It's just so delicate. At this point, I'm documenting everything quietly. I have dates, times, details of every weird interaction with John since I caught them. I even considered sneaking some kind of evidence of his relationship with Emily, but I'm not a detective and that feels risky and kind of sleazy on my part. I did notice John and Emily often take late lunches at the same time now. I suspect they might be meeting up outside the office. A small part of me wants to catch them in the act somehow as insurance, but that could backfire, and also, I don't want to become some stalkerish person. I haven't gone to HR yet. Our HR is, well, let's just say they've never been employee advocates in my experience. I'm not sure I trust them, and I wouldn't be surprised if John has already spun some story just in case. Like, who knows? Maybe he's preemptively hinted that I'm not performing well, or that I'm causing trouble, to lay groundwork. I'm writing this here because I feel completely alone in this, and it's eating me up inside. I haven't made any official moves yet, and each day I second-guess myself. Should I just shut up and keep my head down? Should I try to anonymously tip off someone? Should I risk going to HR or even higher up the chain? What if that intern gets really hurt, professionally or emotionally, and I could have helped prevent it by speaking up? But also, what about my career that I've worked so hard for? I just don't know what the hell to do. I'm angry, I'm scared, and I feel guilty no matter what decision I make. Any advice or even just words of support would help, because right now I'm terrified that this situation is only going to escalate, and I'm the one who's going to end up destroyed by it. And yes, I've considered the nuclear option of telling John's wife anonymously, but I'm not even touching that for now. That could blow everything up in unpredictable ways, and it still wouldn't protect my job. It's just a mess. TLDR, I caught my married boss in a sexual encounter with our 21-year-old intern. Now he's threatened me to keep quiet, implying he'll ruin my career if I say anything. I'm terrified to speak up and equally terrified to stay silent. I feel trapped and don't know what to do. Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I was blown away by the support and the advice I received. It made me feel a little less alone knowing that so many of you agreed that what John is doing is not okay. A lot of you urged me to report him or get legal advice, and some warned me to be very careful. It's been a few days since I posted, and things have indeed escalated. After reading the comments and thinking it through a million times, I decided I couldn't just stay silent and let John bully me into complicity. I was too stressed to function and realized that if I did nothing, I'd basically be giving him free rein to continue his behavior, and potentially do the same to Emily or others in the future. So I took a deep breath and went to HR. I approached one of the HR representatives I somewhat trust, as much as one can trust HR. I asked if we could speak confidentially, and she agreed. I told her everything, how I walked in on John and Emily, how he pulled me into his office the next day and threatened me, the subsequent intimidation tactics like nitpicking my work and making those comments. I also handed over a written statement I'd prepared, detailing dates and incidents, and told her I had it saved in personal email too. My heart was pounding the entire meeting. The HR rep, let's call her Linda, listened quietly and took notes. She looked genuinely concerned, especially about the explicit threat. She did say one thing that made my stomach drop, though. You don't have any other proof, like emails or photos or anything, do you? I said no, apart from my own eyewitness account and the notes of his behavior afterwards. She gave a little frown and said they'd have to investigate and speak to the parties involved. I pleaded with her to keep my name out of it as much as possible, or at least not immediately reveal it to John, but I got a non-committal response. I left that meeting feeling both relieved and more anxious than ever. At least I had finally told someone in authority, but now it was out of my hands. Well, HR moved faster than I expected, because the very next day, Emily wasn't at her desk. I later found out that Emily was in a meeting with HR that morning. They pulled her in first, it seems. I have no idea what Emily said to them. I was on edge all morning, expecting at any moment to be summoned. Sure enough, right after lunch, I got an email from HR asking me to come to their office. When I arrived, I was surprised to see both John and Emily already seated in a conference room with Linda, the HR rep, and another HR person I didn't know well. My heart nearly stopped. This was not how I imagined this going. It was basically an interrogation with all of us present. My stomach was doing flips. Linda said they wanted to get us all on the same page about an incident. She kept it vague, but we all knew what this was about. I could barely look at Emily or John. John was very calm, leaning back in his chair with a neutral expression. Emily looked nervous and was staring down at her hands. Linda started by asking something like, "There was a report of inappropriate conduct in the workplace. We want to clarify what happened from each of your perspectives." I was panicking inside, but I also realized this was my chance to speak, so I recounted the basic facts. That I walked in on John and Emily being intimate in the conference room after hours, and that the next day John threatened me to keep quiet. I tried to keep my voice steady, but I was visibly shaking. John's turn. He flat out denied everything. He looked the HR reps in the eye and said my accusations were absolutely false and based on a misunderstanding. He admitted that he and Emily were in the conference room, but claimed it was to discuss her performance and that I must have misinterpreted something I saw. He even suggested I was overworked or stressed and had misinterpreted what I saw. I was floored by how confidently he lied. Then the HR folks asked Emily to speak. Emily looked like a deer in headlights. She hesitated, glanced at John, then mumbled that John was just talking to her about some project stuff, and nothing inappropriate happened. I felt a cold wave wash over me. Emily was lying to cover him. Whether she was doing it willingly or out of fear, I don't know, but it was heartbreaking and infuriating to hear her basically betray me and herself like that. At that point, I realized it was essentially my word against theirs, and theirs was a united front. The HR reps didn't outright dismiss my claims, but I could tell the wind had gone out of the sails of this meeting. They wrapped up by reminding us that personal matters should be kept out of the workplace, a very generic reprimand. They also reiterated that retaliation is not allowed, since I brought up that I felt threatened by John, and he again responded, "I absolutely did not threaten her. I'm offended by that accusation." Linda said they'd continue looking into it, and that if any of us had additional evidence or information to please come forward. The whole thing lasted maybe 20 to 30 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I walked out of that room feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. John shot me a look as we left. Not exactly a smirk, but something that conveyed I won this round. And honestly, he did. HR didn't say the case was closed, but I have zero faith that they're going to do anything now. I suspect they'll just sweep it under the rug. That was yesterday. This morning I came into work to find that I was suddenly removed from my main project. My access to the project software was revoked with the excuse that I'm no longer on that project. I then got a meeting invite from John for this afternoon. No details, just a meeting with him and another manager. I have a bad feeling about it. I think they're trying to push me out, maybe reassign me or write me up. John is probably furious that I went to HR and wants me gone ASAP. But he has to do it carefully now because HR is theoretically watching for retaliation, though I doubt they really are. I'm at work as I type this, again on personal device, on break. The atmosphere is so tense. Emily is avoiding me entirely. She hasn't even made eye contact today. John is acting like nothing's wrong. But I see the storm brewing beneath that facade. I'm preparing for the worst. I backed up any personal files from my work computer just in case. I also discreetly reached out to that employment lawyer one of you recommended. Thank you to whoever suggested that. We have a consultation tomorrow after work. I feel sick about how this is going down. I try to do the right thing, and it seems to be blowing up in my face exactly as I feared. I'm not sure what will happen in the meeting this afternoon, but I have a feeling it's not going to be good news. I'll update again when I can, if I still even have a job by then. I'm bracing myself for whatever comes next. At least I can say I tried to stand up for what's right. Update 2. Final. It's been one hell of a week. I wish I had better news, but at least there's some closure now, albeit messy, and far from the happy ending I hoped for. The meeting I mentioned in my last update did not go well, to put it mildly. It was with John and another senior manager from a different department. They kept it very professional on the surface. The other manager did most of the talking, and I could tell it was rehearsed. They claimed that due to some departmental restructuring and performance considerations, my position was being eliminated effective immediately. They said I would receive a severance package contingent on signing a non-disclosure agreement I was being fired, or laid off as they tried to sugarcoat it. I was furious and incredulous. I knew exactly what this was. Retaliation, dressed up to look like a business decision. I said as much, albeit shakily, and I reminded them that I'd literally just been in HR about John. The other manager gave me this insincere, sympathetic look and said, "I understand you're upset, but this decision is final." John barely spoke. He just sat there with a steely gaze, only chiming in to say something like how he wished things had worked out differently for me. The gall of that man. I did something maybe stupid then. I refused to sign the NDA or any severance papers on the spot. I told them I needed to have a lawyer review anything before I sign. The senior manager looked annoyed that I wasn't just quietly accepting my paycheck and going away. He warned me that the severance offer was generous and I might jeopardize it by involving lawyers, but I didn't care at that point. I gathered my few personal items under their supervision. Yep, they had security watch me pack up. And I walked out of that office for the last time. I cried in my car in the parking lot for a good 15 minutes, out of anger, frustration, relief, everything. It was so surreal. One day I'm just doing my job. The next I'm unemployed for having the nerve to report a toxic boss. That same day, I met with the employment lawyer as planned. When I told her what happened, she was very interested. She said the sequence of events was highly suspicious and that I likely have grounds for a retaliation case, especially since I had a written record of my complaint to HR and a detailed timeline of events. We discussed the possibility of a wrongful termination lawsuit or at least leveraging a better settlement. I felt a bit hopeful hearing her confidence. We started the process of filing a formal complaint with the appropriate government agency for workplace retaliation. Here's where things took an unexpected turn. A couple days after I was fired, I got a message on LinkedIn from none other than Emily, the intern. We ended up meeting in person at a coffee shop away from the office. To my absolute shock, she apologized to me. She told me that John had indeed pressured her to lie to HR. According to her, after I walked in on them, he had sworn her to secrecy and even implied her internship and future career would be in jeopardy if anyone found out. So when HR unexpectedly called her in, she panicked and stuck to his story. Emily told me that when she saw I got fired, apparently the office grapevine quickly spread that I was let go. She felt horribly guilty. She said she realized John was willing to throw me under the bus to save himself, and that he probably didn't truly care about her either. In fact, she revealed that John had started to distance himself from her after the HR inquiry, likely to cover his own ass. She looked pretty distraught, and I could tell this whole ordeal had taken a toll on her too. The big news. Emily said she wanted to come clean, not for John or the company, but for herself and, she said, for me, because it was unfair what happened. I honestly had tears in my eyes when she said that. I had been so ready to resent her forever, but hearing her acknowledge the truth was a huge relief. I told her I never blamed her for being scared. John had put both of us in impossible positions. With Emily's permission, my lawyer got in touch with her. Emily provided a sworn statement detailing the relationship with John and the fact that she lied in the HR meeting under his pressure. She even had some text messages from him that, while not outright saying lie for me, strongly suggested she should keep things secret and stick to their story. My lawyer said this was a goldmine for both my retaliation case and any case Emily might have. I think Emily is considering her own legal action now too, or at least reporting John for sexual misconduct officially. Things moved quickly after that. Once Emily's statement was submitted through my lawyer to the company and to the agency handling my complaint, I heard that John was put on administrative leave. There's apparently an official investigation now. I don't know the final outcome yet. It could end in John getting fired, or he might resign to avoid the scandal. I've also heard through old coworkers that John's wife found out about the affair. Not sure how. Maybe John told her preemptively or someone else did. And she's reportedly kicked him out of the house. So yeah, his life is kind of imploding from all sides. As for me, I'm unemployed, and it feels weird. I've had a few coworkers reach out with kind words, but a couple of close ones also implied that management is spinning my exit as me being a disgruntled, underperforming employee. Figures. I'm trying to take care of myself and plan my next steps. It's scary taking on a company and a powerful guy like John, but knowing that Emily and the truth are on my side helps bolster my resolve.